Welcome, Carlos. We're so happy to have you here to introduce our candid conversation with liberatory young leaders.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Pacheco Miranda, and my pronouns are he, him, él. I'm a senior leader at the Youth Liberation Movement. The Youth Liberation Movement, or YLM, is a youth-led organization in which young leaders, especially those of marginalized identities and lived experiences, work together to lead advocacy projects, participate in countywide collaboratives, and drive research. All of this to ensure that young leaders like us in the Santa Clara County see a pathway to liberation. I am so honored to be here virtually before all of you today to introduce a candid conversation with liberatory young leaders. This video is a discussion between mis colegas at YLM and I about education, housing, unsafe environments, and liberation. Although they couldn't be here in person, they absolutely are here in spirit. And so some things to note before we start the recording. One, there may be some rough cuts. Our conversation was nearly 2 hours long, and we didn't want to make you sit through that. Two, as liberatory young leaders, we are not interested in conforming to conventional or traditional models of communication or interaction. We ask that you sit with any discomfort you experience and interrogate it. Three, we've introspected and reflected a great deal, and we are very open about our experiences, many of which have not been positive. We ask that you do not pity us, instead recognize our resilience, celebrate our vulnerability, and witness our reclaimed power. And four, if you wish to extend your empathy or even sympathy, that is welcome, but please be aware that neither of those emotions without action is helpful. And lastly, there are some questions to help you reflect on the discussion as we watch it, which I will post in the chat shortly. The first one is, what did you learn from the young leaders' ways of interacting? Two, if you heard something today that made you feel uncomfortable, how do you process that and move through it? Three, what stuck out to you in the young leaders' definition of liberation? How can we apply those definitions to the work we do? And four, how do young adults contribute to the idea of whole child, whole family, whole community? All right, and I am assuming I can share screen. Perfect, I absolutely can. Let me go ahead and share that now. Oh, sorry, let me try that one more time. Okay, here we are. I'm gonna stop share screen with sound this time. All right, and without further ado, here is the recording.
Okay, hi everyone. Our opening question is share your name and your pronouns. My name is Hiba and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hey everyone, I'm Carlos Pacheco Miranda and my pronouns are he, him, él.
Hi everyone, my name is Angie. My pronouns are she, hers.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria. My pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hi everyone, my name is Sofia and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Awesome. I just want to mention that this is take 2. We were all stressing out a lot, but we said screw respectability politics, screw professionalism. Let's just have fun. And I think that's important to say. Do you want to ask the first question, Hiba?
Yeah. So what is your sign and 2 people that you carry with you in this virtual space? I'm an Aquarius. Aquarius get a bad rap, but great. So what was the other one? Oh my gosh, I'm so confused. Sorry. Okay. And then name a person that you carry with you in this virtual space. I carry with me my best friend, and I don't really have a second person, just my best friend.
Hey.
But yeah, next person if you want.
I'm happy to go. So the 2 people that I carry with me spiritually wherever I go, my mom and my grandma, they raised me, they loved me. I feel so in debt to them. Everything I do is for them. And so I carry them with me everywhere I go. Thanks. Angie.
My sign is a Virgo, and 2 people who I carry with me is my son. He definitely is gonna come with me with this because he's the one that showed me my self-worth and the reason why I want to be here, and also the friends that gave me the experiences of also why I'm here.
I am a Scorpio, and my baby is also a Scorpio, and my other daughter is also a Scorpio. um, and I would like to bring in the presence of my late teacher Ian Fay, who passed away a couple years ago. He changed my life, and yeah, I wouldn't be here with you guys today if it wasn't for him. And for the other presents, it would be my two daughters, Alina and Celeste.
Nice. That's an intense household, all Scorpio.
Trust me.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Maria. My pronouns are she, hers, hers, and I am also a Scorpio. So, a Scorpio is in the house, Carlos.
Okay, cool. So we all introduced ourselves. That's awesome. The question that I want to ask the group is, tell me about your intersectionality.
I'll go.
Cool.
My intersectionality, I identify as a queer Syrian American woman. I think that I feel most empowered being a part of the LGBT community because I feel like there's a lot of community, especially here in San Jose, because I met a lot of queer friends, and there are a lot of queer people around, and I feel lucky to have like a supportive community. Like even just hearing also that like you guys identify as queer really helps me like feel like acceptance. So I feel really empowered in that. Um
Personally, I feel that I have a very special relationship and very special connection with my racial identity. I think that white supremacy has just been a constant in my life. It's caused the most like emotional pain, trauma in my life. And so I feel both disempowered and empowered in my racial identity.
So for my intersectionality, I'd identify myself as Chicana, a mother, and female and young. And I would say the identity that I feel is most suppressed is definitely, as Hiba said, being a woman. Especially as a mother, I feel that I take on a bigger load than my partner, on top of the like other duties I have as a full-time student, a volunteer. I still have to play my role in taking care of my children, primary, and also taking care of housework, cooking, and all of that takes a lot of effort and energy. And I constantly feel every day the effects of being a woman. So
I also identify as a mom and everything like that. Also a Latina woman and a good friend. I oppress also being a mom and a good friend altogether because as a young mom, we do have all eyes on us. It's a dark world out there, but I also think as well because I met a lot of friends like Sofia, being a young mom, and hearing all their experiences really made me who I am and really opened my eyes and seeing the reason why I want to make a change. I also
go ahead, Angie.
No, you're fine. I was gonna compliment you, Sophia. I am not in college as of right now. I'm going back in the summer, but she's doing what she's doing. She has 2 kids. She's doing everything. I'm doing what I'm doing, and this is why I think moms and women are also in general like really great. And I do like shout out the single fathers out there, because sometimes they can't emotionally be there, but like, hey, you're still doing what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yes, I did also want to comment on what makes me feel empowered as an identity, and I definitely would consider that being a youth, because despite the struggles I faced in my life, I feel like being a youth is what empowers me because I feel like even though I'm young, I carry a lot of wisdom with me more than other people. And I feel like I am steps ahead than others, because of my journey, because of my knowledge, and because of the determination I carry with me every day. And definitely as well in this group, I do like to see that connection with all of you guys, and how I see you all as leaders as well. And it is just very motivational to just be a young person and doing all this badass stuff. And, like nothing can stop us because we're, resilient.
That is beautiful. I love that you're touching on the wisdom that our identities carry, that we carry because of our identities.
Like, I think it's very strong to be, two different cultures, and or two different race, sorry. And especially to the society, we are seen as the bad person. We have like all this negative talk when someone said, "Oh, I'm Black or Latino," and I feel like by me being part of different type of organization, I already have broken that boundary. I have broken that stereotype, that stigma. At the same time, it empowers me because I know, like, oh, I'm not that just because you're saying that. I'm not that. Like, I like to be able to prove people wrong, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're redefining Latinidad, Afro-Latinidad. You're making it your own, right? I think that raises a really interesting question about identity. I mean, we tend to, well, the world has categorized us into these different groups. And so we wear these different labels, these different identities with a lot of pride. At least I do, right? When it comes to being Chicano, when it comes to being queer, neurodivergent. But really, there is no set or fixed definition for those identities, right? My chicanidad is going to be a lot different than Andrew's chicanidad, just by the virtue of us being different people, right?
Okay. So we're gonna transition to the second question. What matters to you?
I think what matters most to me, honestly, the first thing that pops up into my head is just having people that care for me, that I also care about. Just because for like a long time I was alone in a lot of the struggles that I faced, and I didn't have like support for a really long time. And now that I do, I think like what matters to me most is like keeping that however I can, because I don't want to go through this shitty world alone. Yeah.
We're all here for you, girl.
Thank you.
We're here for you.
Same for you guys.
I know, like, I'm not sure if, like, in the past we'd have all felt that way, that we're walking in this world by yourself. You're just holding yourself reliable. You're holding yourself accountable. With this image that, oh, I always have to be, this way so that people can accept me. But we're in 2022. Society has changed a little.
Needs a lot more work though.
Yes, needs a lot of improvement. But yes, we're here for you. And to answer that question, I think what matters for me is holding myself accountable, making sure that I don't forget where I come from, meaning that, like, my background is coming from Nicaragua, and most people out there don't have that education. And I want to make sure that I get, my education done, that I will be a lawyer, and that I will be able to be financially stable to take care of my family, be able to create a family in the future, and don't stress about, oh, am I going to have a meal tonight? Do I have enough money in the bank? and stuff like that. So yes.
I think what matters most to me is family. I feel like everything that I do is for my family. If I want to make the world a better place, it's because my family has to live in it. I think I'm a lot less concerned with myself. Yeah, but I've seen how much my family has struggled, and so my dream has always been, that they no longer have to work, that they can just retire and relax and do things that fulfill them. It almost feels like my obligation to give back, to find my purpose, to make change in my community. Yeah.
Let me transition that question to Angelina. How do you feel?
What matters to me is like an overall view is I want my kids to see what we're doing and realize that they don't have limits, into where like if they feel like if like something is wrong, then they can make a change as well. Because for me, what matters is I genuinely think children need to be safe because like of the system of CPS and etc. of stuff like that. And I want to change some laws and make sure that it's child protective services, not adult protective services. And I want my son and my family and my future, who I will be creating later, to realize that their mom is trying to make their like the world better for them, and that they can do the same thing for their families and people that they look up to, or people that they see like around the world, and they can help them even if it's just a penny, and realize like your perspective matters, but also realize their point of view, if that makes any sense.
So the question is, what does housing equity mean to you?
What does housing equity mean to me? I believe that, I really think, taking the actual word of what equity is, I think that housing needs to be, shaped for each individual person on their needs. Like the more children you have, the bigger space that you should have, for sure. And I think that there should be more low-income housing out there, especially in a city like Santa Clara County, where we are clearly one of the most affluent and most wealthy cities in the state, if not one in the world too, because a lot of our tech companies are based here. A lot of big corporations are moving here, and that increases our rent. And with that, they also need to be increasing the amount of support for the lower income class as well. And I don't see that happening. So there's a form of gentrification happening, and a lot of people who have their generations of families have lived here all their life are being pushed out of this town. And I don't want to see that, because I want to see this city stay diverse, stay true to its roots, and I don't want to see it turn into a metropolitan of just tech companies and only people who can afford to live here. So I definitely want to see there be equity involved in housing for all people of all class, for sure.
How do you think?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, do you want to go?
I was gonna say that just to like bring us back to training yet from yesterday. If you guys recall, like redlining, how colored people, whenever they would apply for loans and to get a loan for housing, they would get denied.
Baby's pulling on hair.
I'm being attacked by my
Oh,
so I have seen myself people having to move out of this town because they couldn't afford it anymore, and there weren't programs for them to get help. I've seen friends having to move over to other cities such as Stockton and Tracy. One of my best friends lives over there now because her family couldn't afford to live here anymore. I see that within the community organizations that I work with over at the San Jose Conservation Corps. Many of our supervisors, foremans of the youth that do the Job Corps program had to also relocate, and that was something really hard because we actually lost a lot of really great supervisors that used to work with our youth, and it was all because they couldn't afford to live here anymore. So, and yes, it's usually Hispanic people. It's from my perspective, I don't want to say it's only, but from my perspective, they were always Hispanic people that had to move out from here, and they're the ones who still continue to have jobs here because we have high paying jobs here compared to if you go to live in somewhere Fresno. They're going to have way lower pay rates. Like the minimum wage is way lower there because I lived there for a point in my life. And over here, like working at McDonald's, like 20 an hour, like you don't see that anywhere else. So what happens is people will continue to keep their jobs here, and what they'll do is sacrifice hours of commuting. Those hours are taken away from their family. Those hours are taken away from doing things that they enjoy, just sitting in a car, you know, getting here and going back home. That's hours every day of your life being wasted just because you can't afford to live where your work is. And I don't think that's acceptable, especially at the rate that it's happening. You know, it's a lot of people commuting, and that plays a part of why there's a lot of traffic as well. So.
Yeah. Hours of your life every day.
Or
morning and evening.
They would go through that hassle of having more than 10 people in their house.
Okay, I think what housing equity means to me is when everyone has an opportunity at housing, no matter their financial status, their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, their religion, and all of the other categories I forget. But I also think it means that people have a say in the services that they get too. Like, it's not just like, oh, like we're the professionals, you sit down and you don't get to have a voice or anything. And I think it's also something where, like, for example, if you're a client in like a housing program or something like that, your voice is heard and you're not like looked down upon, like because you're a client somewhere. And I think just giving everyone like the same opportunity and leaving your bias out of it, and everyone gets a chance to live somewhere because everyone deserves a chance to live somewhere.
No, I just think it's funny because like I just looked up like what is housing equity and stuff like that, and weirdly enough it only gives like, oh, you're looking for a house. It doesn't like really specify anything. It specifies if you want like a loan or anything. So it's really cool that we're talking about this because there's only like the aspects of it. It says it models balances wealth building for families. That's all they really give. So I clap for you. I clap for all of us.
It's interesting because I think equity has a different meaning in certain contexts. So the way we think of equity is this idea of like meeting people where they're at, supporting them in ways that they need. But I think equity means like financially, it means something else that is, again, historically exclusive or exclusionary towards marginalized folks. So I think that in order for you to reap the benefits of equity in that financial sense, you really already have to be privileged enough to be able to invest the money. So I think what I'm trying to say is that it's funny you bring that up because it's really ironic, right?
Yeah.
They use the term equity, but it's an inequitable system.
No, I just thought it was interesting because all I did was look it up, and you're not getting really like the first thing that popped up was housing equity fund. That's it. That's pretty much it. Apply for a home equity loan.
Love it.
Yeah. There's also that like mentality of people who have more privilege where they're like, oh, well, you need to work for your housing, like you need to be making all this money so that you can pay your bills. But like it's not as easy or simple as that. Like you still need to think about the other things you need to get, like food and hygiene stuff, and it's not that easy. Like even if you're working like a ton of minimum wage jobs, like it's still just minimum wage. And I think it just sucks that like people that do have that like privilege of having like housing, it's just like they have this like, and I mean not all of them obviously, but some people just have like this mentality of like, oh well, you're not working hard enough. But you don't know what someone's going through, you know? And I think that there just needs to be more compassion towards unhoused people, and that's how we get to housing equity.
Yeah.
It's Hiba, to your point, so I mean, obviously you guys are aware of the whole like Kim Kardashian, like like she's getting backlash right now because of what she said about just like getting the F up and working. And so I followed this this Black woman who has her doctorate, and she's always posting some really cool woke stuff. And so she retweeted a video of Kim Kardashian saying that, and she said something about how Martin Luther King had said that you can tell someone to pull themselves up by the bootstraps as long as they have the bootstraps, right? But to tell that to someone that does not have the bootstraps, it's just cruel. And that makes me think of that. It's this idea of like American individualism would have you thinking that you can make it in this world just by sheer will, by mere will and motivation, but that's still not the case, right? There's an immense amount of privilege that you need to have in order to make it. Whoa. Right, mom skills.
How cute!
Zabby.
I can agree with you, Carlos. When I saw that video, I was like, damn, like, first of all, one, your privilege. Not a lot of people have the resources that she has to create a business, you know? A lot of people, you know, struggle in creating their own brand, you know, and it's frustrated. Like for me, I would say that it is frustrated for someone to come and say those things when they have that support system, you know. All of their sisters, you know, they created their own, you know, kind of brand by showing their booty out there, but at the same time it's just I don't know. I don't
Some
think
a lot of people are saying that because they came already into this world already wealthy, so they got everything handed to them. So I mean, like people are taking what Kim K as like two ways. They take her as like, yeah, like you have to do your work to get to where you are, but then also you can't really say like get your ass up and start doing the work when you got everything handed to you. Like, she didn't start everything from bottom, nothing. Go ahead.
That's a good thing that you mentioned. You know, when I came to this country, I strongly did believe like if you work hard, you play hard, you're gonna get where you want to be. And that's not BS true. That's that's not true. That's a BS lie.
Go ahead.
Because I have worked I have reached that full capacity of having 3 jobs and being a full-time student and still not being where I want to be. I'm still struggling to pay my own rent. I'm still struggling to find a plate of food, like, you know, like to make sure that, you know, that I'm healthy, that I'm paying my bills on times. And, you know, if you don't work here, you cannot survive. So I struggle with like, my how do you say my ideology within that phrase of like if you work hard, you play hard, you're gonna get where you want. That's not true. Yes, it work in like it might be true in some occasions, but it's not true.
It's not always. Yeah, it's not always.
It's not everything's reality.
Yeah, it's more so true for the people who have the opportunities that other people don't.
That's why people are saying like, well, she shouldn't be talking, or well, this and that, which is, yeah, she's right. She shouldn't really be talking because she hasn't started something from $0. She started already something with like $3 million. That's why like a lot of people are like, well, I have my own business and it's a hair product thing, but I started from zero. I'm a small business and I'm making a great like living out of it. But to her, it's like, get your ass up because look where I am, you know?
Right.
I think she's just sending the wrong message to this generation. And I feel like this unit generation, some of them do have that common sense to knowledge that, and some of other people, I feel like they're getting that news. I'm gonna use my body to create publicity, and as a woman of color, brown skin, whatever you want to put me as in a box, I don't think that's a great image. Especially knowing my ancestor worked their, they worked so hard to get where they were trying to be, and I'm just gonna say, like, I was raised by single women, working hard, don't needing a man to provide, and I kind of got lost now. I don't know what to say.
No worries. I do want to touch on something you said. Honestly, I feel like some people are just so detached, not only from what it's like to be a young person, but also what it's like to be a young person in this day and age. I was in so I just got into an honor society, and there's like a club element to it, and so I've been attending that. It has not been my cup of tea. I low-key hate it, but I stay in it because I want something to add to my college apps, right, to make me more competitive. But I honestly do not feel like I'm thriving in that space, and part of the reason is there's an advisor. She feels so oppressive. Like I keep pushing back on some of the things she says because it feels very traditional. It feels very antiquated. And I'm all about, like, youth liberation movement, liberatory thinking, critical thinking about looking at the structures and the powers that be, and interrogating them, right, and making changes and shifts. So I keep like giving my feedback, giving my input, and she just keeps like resisting me and like giving me the same answer, not even answering my questions, just giving me this, like essentially saying, well, this is the way it's always been, right? And that's so annoying. Like they're just so detached from they think that we just want the world. They think that we just want for it to be like easy, right? They think that, working hard, they think that suffering, that's life, that working yourself to the bone is life, right? That accepting oppression is life. And it's so weird. Like we're finally at the point where we're just saying, like, we don't want that for ourselves. We want to live a fruitful life. We want to live a life of purpose, free of oppression. And that to them is just so radical. That to them is just so out of their
yeah. No, then let me ask, how, like, with this energy that we have that we just talked about, what would you say about like housing equity though? Like bring it back a little bit, like put that energy, like put like exactly what we're talking about, right? Like with Maria, Carlos, Hiba, everyone, right? Like with what we're saying, because exactly what we're going through, but like housing equity.
Okay, focus. Okay, we love to see it. I mean, I know we had that whole weird thing going on with like the hub for foster youth, and how there really wasn't communication on the city's part with them, right? How the foster care folks felt like they were being excluded from the decision-making process. I think part of what could have been driving that is just this idea that like professionals that are working to support marginalized folks seem to oftentimes put their own professional expertise on a pedestal, right? And my recommendation would be to I don't know, to elevate the voice of those you serve, right? And to see their voice, their experiences as equally valuable expertise in its own right. And then making it something that's collaborative, right? Versus unidirectional, which is something that I've seen a lot.
I definitely agree. Like, I think that
Bing. Bing bong. Bing bong.
I think there's just always like this unnecessary of like, here's the people that are important and get to make the decisions for the people who are struggling, and then the people who are struggling don't really get a say in it. And I think that really goes against like housing equity, because like if you don't get a say in it, then you don't get to say like what you need, you know, and then you just end up not getting what you need, you know. I don't know if that made any sense. I'm sorry.
Okay, that made total sense. You're great. You're great. You're fabulous. You're fabulous. Okay, we're gonna transition, and especially because we've been talking about education. Were you, or are you even feeling, were you made to feel empowered or disempowered in your education?
Disempowered, for sure.
Begin.
Oh my god, I have so much to say about this.
Do it, girl.
Wait, can we just go around and say like what it is?
Disempowered.
Disempowered AF.
Disempowered, for sure.
Empowered.
Disempowered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Disempowered.
And Hiba, go ahead.
I say disempowered because like when I was in school, I struggled a lot with like all of the topics. At first it was math, but then as the years went on, I started struggling with like pretty much all the subjects, like a lot. And I didn't get like a diagnosis of ADD until like 5 months ago. And that's what I had that whole time. And I felt really disempowered in my education because I was struggling with all these things because my brain worked differently. And I was having like issues at home too, like with the toxic environment and stuff at home. And I would always like come into school and I wouldn't really like, I would try so hard, but I couldn't just like understand like what was going on. And then like I would ask for help, and then I would need help from the teachers in like a different way. Like I'm a visual learner, but then teachers would just like come and like verbally tell me things, or just like give me one sentence and then go. And a lot of the times if I would come like for office hours for help, teachers would get like really frustrated with me for not understanding it the first time they explained it, which it just makes me feel so like disregarded and like disempowered, because it's like, well, I care about my education, but clearly I feel like I there's something in my brain that's like different, but I don't know what that is, because the school just thinks I'm a lazy bad kid. And then my parents didn't believe in that stuff, so they weren't going to get me tested for it. So I felt really disempowered because like people just always think like, oh, you're a troublemaker, like teachers and stuff. Oh, you're lazy, blah blah. But that wasn't the case. Like I was going through a lot of like shit at home. Like I had a hard time paying attention, and like no teachers wanted to help me. They'd just be like huffing and puffing whenever I'd ask another question. And it's hard because like I feel like so many of my teachers just expected everyone to get it like right off the bat, and that just made me like struggle a lot, because I'm like now I know that I'm like neurodivergent, and it really sucked thinking that there was something wrong with me throughout my school experience. Like I used to be like, well, maybe I'm just dumb, because that's how I got treated. But yeah, that's kind of how I felt, because I think that the school system maybe needs more education in like neurodivergency, or like figuring out if a kid is going through something, you know. But that's kind of my take on it.
I have something very similar than Hiba, because in my education, I always felt like I was super slow. Like I couldn't comprehend anything. So I was held back in first grade. And then by sixth grade, I found out I had a learning disability. I have type 2 dyslexia and memory loss and all this other stuff. And middle school and high school were so hard and so damaging. Love the classes, don't get me wrong, but like to other students and other people and other teachers, they like think that you're the lazy person because you're only at a CD average, but you just actually don't understand, or you're the bad kid that just sits there during the class. Or like for me in my like specific like states is like in high school, because I was in like learning disability classes and lower classes with my IEP and everything. They did call me like a bad kid because I always had an attitude with teachers because they either like would like dumb it down or like make you feel like you're stupid. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like, I was not afraid to show attitude or anything. I'm still not, but like, especially when like you are making a student feel worse every day, that did not, like, I didn't sit well with me. So like in math class or in science or in English or whatever, I would either sit there and not do the work because I literally couldn't do it. You know what I mean? And they would give like one sentence answers or something like that, and they couldn't help you, or they're the complete opposite. And for me, when I was pregnant and everything like that, my school district didn't even want me in school anymore. They wanted me to quit. They wanted me to drop out because they didn't like the title of a teen pregnancy at Santa Teresa High School. I don't care, I'm gonna say it anyways. And I ended up graduating with a 3.9 GPA. You know what I mean? So like everything with that, this disempowered me, but then also empowered me because I want to show my child that hey, it's okay what people are gonna put you through, even though it sucks while going through it.
It sounds like you got a lot off your chest right now.
Because like education, like a lot of like I would say like Latinos, like either you are gonna work or you're gonna have an education. And for me, I chose work because education was already hard for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like Hiba, like every subject was somehow like a different equation. Like it's so hard, right? Like for me, English, couldn't get through it. Math for some reason was actually okay with me. Science and everything else, I was like failing majority of the time because I couldn't comprehend anything, and no teacher really gave a shit. Sorry to say, but like now, like going to college with an IEP, it's hard because like they don't give the direct help, I guess you can say, because like you would have to go to DSPS or whatever disability thing that they have, and they're like, oh, you can have electronic notes done for you, and you wait for that email and you never get it, and you're like, okay, well, I'm failing this class because of me, or because like you're gonna kind of like put yourself down because of it. And that's why like I'm taking a break from school right now because it was really stressful, but then I'm going back in the summer, hopefully gonna have help, but if not, I mean, like, what can I do, you know? Education's all different.
So the reason I say I felt empowered is not because the education system is amazing. It's far from it. And in fact, Maria, in many ways, it's failed me. The reason I said I felt empowered is because, I mean, I've always said that I carry myself in a way that's very acceptable to white people. In many spaces, I've been uplifted as the exception. I think tokenization has been a huge part of why I've been so successful. Not to say that I don't work my ass off, because I absolutely do. Not to say that I haven't earned any of the leadership opportunities and roles that I've gotten. But I mean, I definitely think tokenization played a part. I mean, I look back to Avid, right? It was all POC, but one person, maybe two. And because I carried myself in a certain way, I spoke in a certain way, like I was like they focused on me, they uplifted me. When I was in honors and AP classes, I was the only Latino. So by default, I looked like amazing. I looked like I was the exception. I was special. I was, you know, in contrast, like extra smart. And so there were so many different spaces throughout K-12 in which I was just like uplifted. And I understand that that's a huge privilege, but it's also like a huge mind F to constantly be, to define your self-worth in comparison to others. I remember when I first got to Mountain View High School, I had a group of friends, right? I mean, I had transferred in like toward the end of freshman year, so I didn't know anyone. Immediately, this group of of girls, like they included me in their group, all Latinas, many of whom were immigrant. English was their second language. And so I befriended them. They were really nice to me. By the time I got to my senior year, they had all been transferred over to the continuation school, right? And it was just so interesting to see people that looked like me, people that had names like mine, people that shared a similar cultural background, just to see them being like plucked and plucked and plucked slowly but surely, until they were all at the continuation school. And I had visited the continuation school, right? Not while I was in high school, but after the fact, when I started working, I saw how little resources they dedicated to these students, how little attention they dedicated to these students. And the message that I got was that Mountain View just didn't care about these students. They were like one less person to deal with, right? And again, it's not so much that these students were deficient. It's that Mountain View High School didn't want to support them in the way that they needed, right? They didn't care to. They rather just focus on the Latinos that spoke and looked like me. And so yeah, anyway, I mean, and that was K-12. Once I got to college, I'd say that I felt completely disempowered in my education. I too am neurodivergent, OCD, depression, anxiety. And so for a long time, I would enroll in classes, get extremely overwhelmed, feel like I couldn't do it, like I was incapable of doing more for myself, and I would drop out. And it took medication, it took therapy, it took making my own space, finding my own community for me to actually reach to the point that I'm at now, which is like a complete 180.
No, yeah, you're good. I mean, that's definitely think that like the bright side of my education is I did get really close to my IEP teacher, rest in peace, Miss Kagura. Sadly, she passed away in October of 2020. She was amazing, loved her IEP kids, made sure that we were safe in our classes, even though, like, you know, students are going to be students, they're going to say whatever the hell they want, but she made sure all of her kids were trying to pass as much as possible, you know. And then I had a teacher in middle school, her name was Miss Taylor. She always uplifted us, even though, like, knowing that other kids were like, oh, you're in like a dumber class, because for me, like, I was still learning like long division and stuff like that, and that took me forever to do because it's harder for me to learn in my head. But I definitely say that there is a good sides to like education, but like overall it is disempowering and or empowering, because I'm pretty sure all of us, like, with the existence and what we've experienced, we're going to take to our future, and we wanted to change for, you know, who or what we're going to leave with, you know what I mean? And
I just want to touch on something that you said, like, you know, there are some good there are some gold nuggets in the system of education. I think what sucks is that they're just these like small pockets, these small spread out infrequent pockets in which we find a person, we find a small community that we get the support that we need from, but it's not institutionalized.
Yeah,
it's not common practice. These are small pockets that we have to search for, right?
yes,
it's not the default. It sucks.
No, yeah, because when I found out I was pregnant, right, I didn't find out the organization I was working with, Teen Success. I found out through my boyfriend in his school, and I was like, wait, what? Like, there's a program there, and then they help teen parents, not only teen moms, sadly. The reason I'm saying sadly, because I still think that they should do both parents, but anyways, but I didn't find out until I was like 4 months along, sadly. And if I didn't find out, I would have been so lost as like a teen mom, going through more stress, depression, and everything like that, because like you're a teen in high school, like you're literally the only one in high school who's pregnant, and all, like, everyone looking at you like, what the hell? And I used to go to the counselors a lot because I always faint. And there'd be all these resources, and I'm like, why don't people speak about these things.
Yeah.
But then I realized people are actually scared to talk to the counselors and stuff like that, and that's why they can't get to the resources. You know what I mean? And this brings up what we talked about a while ago, and with the educational design team and stuff like that. And like, just because like certain things, and or we're the bad kids, or we're late, or whatever, it doesn't mean anything. It's more just what our experience is. And you know, there are their golden nuggets, but not everyone's gonna look in their point of view of that.
Right. When it's not institutionalized, then it's hit or miss, right? You're just lucky to find these spaces versus, again, it's just not.
Yeah.
All right.
I just think I'm gonna add to that I do remember when my mom was alive, she would say that education is the power and that you're more credible.
Yeah.
And even though I think, yes, it has failed me into the society, I'm gonna say that education is the power and has the power, of you being more credible to others. And then in that also adding into that is like, with the knowledge that you have now, no one can take that away. Like, no one, it's not, like, people cannot just come and brainwash your brain, to believe in something else. And I feel like many organizations out there are trying to do that, in providing that positive feedbacks about like how successful their program is. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and transition to our last questions to you guys, and feel free to express how do you feel this defined by your own perspective, and is what does liberation means to you?
Go ahead.
For me, I think that liberation means having what you need and like being safe. Like, in my like years of being alive, I've just noticed that like I've had trouble with like almost like so many of like the systems, housing systems, school systems, healthcare systems, like food support systems. And I just think that, like, for me, liberation means having access to all of those things without having to worry, like being able to be safe, being able to rely on people to help you when you're not in a good situation. Like when I was a kid, before I moved out, I was in a like really bad home environment. And this kind of goes back to what Angie was talking about with CPS. I couldn't tell anyone anything because all CPS would do is just like come in and like look around the house for 5 minutes and be like, oh, everything is fine, good, cool, I don't see any bruises on you, it's fine. And then they would just leave, and then that makes the situation more aggressive and worse in your home. And it just really sucked because I acted out a lot in school because of what was happening at home with me. And everyone just thought I was just like a lazy troublemaker. And it just really sucks because like all I really wanted was for somebody to help me. But I knew that if I told someone at school, they would go and tell CPS because they're like, oh, I'll get in trouble if I don't tell CPS, which I understand. But also, no one's going to know that I told you if you don't tell anyone. So like, but I feel like there needs to be like, I think that liberation is also that for me is kids, if they are in an unsafe situation, they have someone to talk to that they can trust, because who knows like what could happen to the kid in that kind of environment, like if you don't help them. And I feel like that trauma has made me not trust the system. And I think that we need to fix that. I think that the system should actually help us like it's supposed to, but it doesn't. It just puts us in more danger. It leaves us in like harm's way. It doesn't give us what we need. And just liberation to me is just being able to be safe, and that it's like it's a right to be safe. And I think that if you're not safe, especially if you're a kid, you should be able to ask for help, but I couldn't do that. So I just think that what it means to me is just to be able to be safe, to be able to get help. But that's not really the case in society. So sorry if that was dark.
No, you're speaking your truth. You're speaking your existence. This is what your heart wanted to say, and guess what's going to touch everyone else's lives, because it's what you're giving everyone else your perspective of life, and no one's going to understand that but you until you tell somebody. You know what I mean?
And you never know who's going through the same situation as yourself, you know. So you're always helping someone by sharing, so that's a good thing. For me, I want to say, I think the first time even when we came together as a group to even like to find the name for our own organization, I think I said it, that I feel like liberation for me, like I know it means to be free, but the way that I compare it in today's society is being free from being labeled, being free from being that person in a box, matching those boxes to be able to qualify for something. Yes, that for me, that's what liberation means. Like, I want to make sure that, yes, you know, the way that people define as a, you know, person that you know, a woman of color to this country, for me, liberation means that I'm breaking that label, and you know, I'm making sure that, you know, that I feel free to express who I am, what I'm doing in a safe setting, in a comfortable way. Like even how we're doing our medium right now, you know, how we're doing this right now. We feel comfortable in our own skin to express how we're feeling. You know, we're not apologizing like who, you know, who might be feeling sensitive about this type of information. You know, we want to make sure that our voice are aired, that they're listening, that yes, you're going to use this information for something better and to improve today's society in general. So for me, liberation means making sure that I'm breaking that cycle of people putting us in boxes. We're not just numbers. We're people that we're facing this, you know, unfortunately, this type of situation. And it's not like we want to face the situation. It's just that we're not privileged enough to have the freaking resources. So yes, I feel like that's the liberation for me. Period. Boom.
Period.
I got too excited. Sorry, but yeah.
Don't be sorry.
Yeah. I'm gonna pass it on to Carlito.
Honestly, liberation to me means getting to seek fulfillment, getting to seek purpose without feeling like I'm fighting for my life on a daily basis. I am grateful that I have had the opportunities to make my community a better place. But honestly, I'm just so sick of having to. But yeah, that would be my definition of liberation, just getting to seek fulfillment without feeling like I have to fight every day of my life.
Mm-hmm. From hearing everybody, it sounds like we all think liberation is like something that we just don't want to be alone anymore. We don't want to, like Maria said, don't be put in a box anymore, pushed to the left, or being not able to be safe anymore, you know, like Maria said, like we are so happy to be in YLM because we have people that we're not alone anymore with, you know what I mean? That's why I got really emotional at retreat at the end of the day. Like I started crying because I realized like I'm not alone anymore. No matter how many years I felt alone because I had a learning disability, because I'm a Latina, I'm different, I have curly hair. I have curly hair and I have a larger nose than other people, or I can't speak the way I want to speak. I can't have my grandma's from New York. I can't have that attitude. I can't have this attitude that I have, or speak what I believe in. You know what I mean? And I have seen like what he was talking about. Like from like a like a third person point of view of CPS, like with a friend and stuff like that. It's not adult protective services, it's child protective services. You know what I mean? And that's what liberation to us really means, because we're not alone anymore. We want to feel safe, we want to be heard, and we are trying to step out of the box and be the radical person we are.
All right, so to close this discussion, we'll do una palabra. So everyone think of a word that describes our discussion here tonight. And I have mine. So going off of, in response to what you said, Hiba, I feel safe in this space.
I don't know how to say one word for it, but I feel like I have people that are in my corner and I feel inspired.
I guess I feel liberated in a manner that, you know, I feel comfortable enough to express how I feel, how, you know, we feel comfortable enough in our own skin to express and answer all these questions, you know. I want to see more, if that makes sense.
For me, I guess I would say I found my people, because in my lifetime I didn't have friends like you guys. I only have one best friend, and that's my friend group. That's not my friend group. And now that I can have you guys, and like I can go to you guys, and you guys won't be like, well, you're being petty, or you're being something, you know what I mean? You'll be like, well, I'm there for you, and I'm happy to be with people who are ready to change this world and ready for it. Ready to be radical, guys. Let's be radical.
Ready for another civil war.
All right, cool. Thanks, everyone. Closed. All right. Let me pull something up for myself. Great. So thank you all so much for listening in on our conversation today. We are so grateful for your willingness to bear witness to our reclamation of power, and for all the love in the chat. It has truly been amazing, very inspiring. We would love to hear what your definition of liberation is. So please tell us in the chat. And before I turn it over to Superintendent Marianne DeWan, we want to let you know that although YLM is governed entirely by young adults, we recognize and understand that collaboration with professional allies is key. Professional allies with years of experience, connections, and access to opportunities. If you are interested in supporting YLM in a real way, we are building an ally advisory council made up of systems leaders who are willing to share their social capital with us to grow this movement. If you are interested in learning more, you can reach out to Courtney or Joe, who will put their emails in the chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Carlos, and to all of the young leaders who spoke so eloquently and gave us such inspiration and wisdom.